Hey everybody, Sive here with the ForexPeaceArmy.com. Let's take a look again on euro currency. So on the daily chart, we do not have a lot of progress. So you can see for the fourth session in a row, market stands in the tight range. We have discussed this yesterday, what it could mean, why we think that it's more bearish sign rather than bullish, just because when the market hits the oversold area and at the same time shows no reaction, even though minor pullback, it always looks not quite bullish. It means that market looks heavy, it feels some constant pressure, and that's well, here the situation mostly hasn't changed. So as we said yesterday, we think that downside swing and other downside action is quite possible. We even talked about the target, which is around 114 area. So here is mostly everything remains the same on the daily chart. Today we will get the payrolls. Recent ADP numbers have already been better than expected. We will see what will be on the payrolls, but I suspect that market hardly will be very careful and pay too much attention to these numbers by the many reasons. First is of course the conflict. Everybody mostly currently are worrying about the results of this conflict, and particularly speaking when it will be over. And that's, I would say, the primary driving factor for the euro. Because, well, actually we also talked about this yesterday, so we discussed all major factors. One point of view, demand for the safe haven pressure on the euro, because everybody is going to buy dollars and buying dollars. Second factor is becoming expensive for the energy, which is also not good for economy of the European Union. Social question. So lots of Muslim migrants living in European Union also doesn't let European Union to act as probably they could in other circumstances. So demarche of the Spain, it's some conflict with the United States. Also do not support the overall economy of the European Union, because Spain is actually it's fourth probably largest economy in the European Union, or even third, and it was actually one of the leader in the previous year. Problems with the trading with the United States of the Spain hardly could bring more optimism to European Union leaders. So everything now stands not in favor of the sharp reversal in the euro. And I think that investors mostly miss pricing the term of this conflict. I do not expect that it will be over fast, which actually makes everything looks like that this is not priced in yet. So investors still are hoping on a more or less fast final, or at least that conflict will turn to some slowly going conflict without any big consequences for the global trade. I wouldn't count on it. So and when everybody will recognize it, we will get another fast action across the board on all markets. So what we need to pay attention to today on the forward time frame chart, we see kind of the, I don't know, double bottom performance, something like this, and here is a big temptation to call it as a double repo by the Jordan Napoli terms, but in fact we can't do this. And in general, I saw many times, and I would say even as a rule, it happens that when you do not see the corresponding market mechanics of the double repo, particularly speaking, when you do not see on the second bottom attempts of the market to break the lows, and you do not see the defeat of the bears in these attempts, in most cases, this is not the double repo. And in 90%, it turns to some continuation pattern, such as a triangle or pennant. Personally, I see that everything is going particular to this scenario. So this is not the double repo. This will be either flag or pennant, and then we will see downside action. In fact, you could see it on the 30-minute chart. Second reason why we can't call it as a double repo is just because of the bread and butter trade. Yes, the trade has been completed. Market even has exceeded the target a bit, so this was not just 618 support, but even slightly lower. And we've got it. And since market already has touched the 30% retracement, the steam out of the pot. So double repo doesn't work when the most traders already out They do not hold any short positions anymore. So from that standpoint of view, the perspective of the double repo almost not exist. So it's not the double repo pattern. One thing that we could consider probably, if you would like to, especially if payrolls report will support this, if it will be weaker, for example. Let's take a look. Here we have a kind of the hint on the hand and shoulders pattern. So that's the only setup that theoretically you could try to trade if you would like to, because we have nothing else. Whether to keep the position for the weekend, this is different story. Now, as you understand, it's not safe to keep any positions for the weekends. But maybe this pattern will be finished earlier, especially if the payrolls will be, well, maybe not drastically, but significantly lower than market expects. In this case, we could get short-term performance here in the kind of the ABCD inside of this channel consolidation based on the hand shoulders pattern. That's one of the possible patterns that you could consider. But of course, this is very small, not very interesting to us if we speak about the terms of the daily trading or even high time frames. Another thing that always, or not always, but very often happens with the such kind of the performance, currently it looks like the triangle. So theoretically it might be this one, and sometimes it particularly turns to flag. So starting from the triangle, when the market completes some inside ABCD pattern, it becomes the flag, but it absolutely doesn't change the overall nature of this pattern. It is a continuation pattern, and it still holds the bearish context on euro currency. So that's probably enough for me for now, because speaking generally as a bottom line, this is the pattern that you theoretically could keep an eye on if you would like to, and if you would like to make some trades on the payrolls report. If not, then probably it makes sense to wait until the next week, just to not take additional risk with the position stands on a balance through the weekend. So that's the 2 points that probably make sense today, and see what numbers we will get.